If you're trying to build your career again today from day one, how would you do it now?
I don't know if I'd change anything because everything had a season.
Hey, I'm Chase, and this is Media Offline, a series where I speak to some of the creators who inspire me in my journey to making better films. From his days making travel films on YouTube, to now working with some of the biggest brands and tourism boards in the world, Ben Mikha has always had an insane career, and one that always seems to be pushing to new heights. So I wanted to dive into his journey, his philosophy, and work out how it's possible to keep pushing yourself as a creator. I've seen you make travel content, you make ads for the most beautiful places in the world. Where did that kind of start? How did you build that career?
I started back in 2015 just on a GoPro, and I was just out there shooting nature style videos. It was just like documenting the lives of myself and my friends and my family going on these spontaneous adventures around New Zealand. I just fell in love with the creative process because it involved so many aspects of things that interest me. So music, visual stuff, being able to like capture and create a story.
How do you go from GoPro to where we are now?
Obsession. Obsession. No, actually though, yeah. I don't know. I get bored of stuff pretty quick once I've sort of figured out how to use it, and I'm always thinking like, how do I get better, or how do I like step it up a level?
So what were you doing sort of at that time when you were creating these GoPro videos?
I was like an optical assistant at Specsavers.
I love that. Really, really adjacent to filmmaking.
Yeah. Long story short, I went to India, made the decision, I think 5 days before going to India, because a friend at the time asked me to go. And I went and I took the GoPro, and I just started taking photos as well of the travels, and I put that onto Instagram. And I was just like, this is super cool. And funny story, I got back to Specsavers, and like one of my first clients that I got on the day was a flight attendant. I obviously helped her out and stuff, and at the end of it she was like, oh, you'd make a really good flight attendant because your demeanor and stuff is like right in line with the type of people they bring on. And that's what actually inspired me to apply for it.
That's sick. So just like a chance occurrence that like that was the person you talked to.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in like signs. So I was just like, well, whatever. So GoPro just eventually turned into a GH4, and GH4 turned into a GH5, and just carried on.
So that obsession just went with bigger and better cameras. Yeah,
well, there's a limitation, especially to like, small micro four thirds cameras. I wanted to understand what the difference was between a micro four thirds center and an APS-C, and what that meant for like depth of field and noise profile and all those little nuances within camera bodies that I wanted to understand.
Was that mostly sort of like a technical obsession there, or an obsession with wanting to, I don't know, tell stories, capture these places?
Both. Yeah, it's technicality allows you the artistry.
Now that's a soundbite. I love that. Ben went on to win a competitive internship with Discovery, traveling the world for months bettering his craft as a content creator. And this obsession led him to rapidly upskilling, building new abilities, and an audience on Instagram and YouTube. So obviously you're not a flight attendant anymore.
Yeah.
How did you know when to make the jump? Because I think that's something that's so terrifying for people that do it as a side hustle, or they do it while they have other jobs. How do you know when that moment is right?
You don't. Oh, dude, no, seriously, you never feel like you're ready.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was ready. I got off like a 3-month stint with Discovery Channel, traveling around the world and creating content for them, and then I went back to flight attending.
Oh, wow.
And flight attending is a real cool job.
Yeah.
When I got back, like all I wanted to do was like create and be on my camera, and whatever that meant, whether that's shooting corporate stuff or weddings or I don't know, anything to get me hours on the camera, and that's all I wanted to do. So I just made a decision, and the way I executed that decision was writing down a date. And I wrote a date, and I was like, this is the date that I have to, stick to. There's no compromises here. And 2 things that I would say to somebody that is looking to take that leap of faith is buy your own gear first and foremost, especially if you're like a soloist, because otherwise you'll be at the mercy of, trying to find somebody to rent gear off. You won't make as much money to be able to support yourself if you're always renting gear.
Totally.
And then the second thing is just to have work, at least a job, lined up before you take that leap.
Ben continued to improve technically and make connections through his travel and commercial work, which led to how I found him, through a company called Beautiful Destinations.
Beautiful Destinations was like the next pivotal step in my career. they just revolutionized the entire, I guess, social media travel game. Like all the best sort of biggest travel people like Sam Calder and Jacob and Nainoa, they're all from there. I sort of just got picked up by them randomly and got asked if I could fly to Jamaica in a couple of days' time and said yes.
That's sick.
And just ran with it from there.
Yeah.
I remember sitting down with the founder, Jeremy, and he just asked me what I wanted to do.
What was the answer you gave him?
I said I don't know. I literally said I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure at that time and point what I loved most about the craft.
I mean, that's a pretty intense boot camp to be in doing.
Yeah, well, after I said I don't know, I said I just want to be a better filmmaker.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have an exact title, editor or DP or director. I didn't really understand what any of those meant.
Yeah.
Within a crew. I just wanted to be a better filmmaker.
Yeah. What kind of stuff were you making with them? Because obviously travel is such a diverse field of production. What is sort of like their niche and your niche within that?
Their niche is like small teams that execute 20 people's jobs.
Yeah.
That's literally like the way I describe it.
So intense and a lot of hats.
Very intense. We were working 15-hour days, 10 days shoot back to back and then going straight back and editing it.
Yeah.
Like literally. It's not an exaggeration.
No, yeah.
That's how I'd describe it, but it's awesome because you get my favorite thing was obviously seeing the cultures and all the travel, but also it's just such a network of creators that they have that you just connect with all these different amazing humans that have a passion for something similar to you.
How did you start building those connections? Like for someone who is in, I don't know, New Zealand is not, well, we have a film community in New Zealand, but it's not like LA where everyone is sort of centered around a couple of industries. So it can feel very daunting growing up here to wanting to get into something like that. Like the number of kids who think they have to move to America to make it in any industry. How do you start to build those?
Instagram, first and foremost, was the ultimate connector because you could reach out to somebody that's also a photographer and say, hey, I'm going here on this day, I can get some photos of you and vice versa.
Yeah.
I think within the film space, it's about knowing producers and other craftsmen within the space. And if you do a good job or you build a good connection with them, they'll bring you back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't, they won't bring you back.
In terms of Instagram, with sort of starting to build connections and build this, I don't know, brand online, is it still the same today? Like, is that still something you do? You still reach out to people? Or what is your relationship with social media kind of become?
A recluse.
Yeah.
No. Been doing it for 5+ years, posting 3 times a week or whatever.
Yeah.
Sharing a lot of my life online, which is great. But nowadays I'm more focused on trying to better my craft as opposed to sort of stick to trends or, adapt my format to whatever the format of the platform is.
Is that something that is inevitable to happen with age and time, or is it sort of more of a conscious choice for you, being that you don't want to, I don't know, be a part of that culture of creators?
Yeah, it's not that I don't want to be part of them because I have a lot of friends and that do it, and I think what they make is great. It's amazing, but I think just where I'm trying to go is different. It's more longer format. It's more collaborative. There's a lot more storytelling. There's a lot more intention and art to it.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you can't do that on YouTube or Vimeo. You totally can. But I just feel more inspired by the greats in actual cinema, and that's what calls out to me. So I sort of head towards that trajectory. Sort
of going with what interests you more at the moment, and
it's the path of finding yourself constantly and reinventing it. And I've had to take a step back in order to allow that process to unfold.
I think what I'm most impressed about is Ben's technicality and drive, this obsession to master techniques that he then brings to projects for dream clients. If I could only take one thing away from our conversation, it'd be that professional growth is about opening yourself up to chance opportunities and being focused on putting in the hours to improve your craft. If it's something you're passionate about, you'll take the time to learn and obsess over the techniques that will push your career forward.